shot's done, we can bring those both into After Effects. And above our actor layer, we can create a solid and we'll call ours Josh Matte. Then we'll set the Josh footage layer to Alpha Matte. If you want, you could draw a really simple mask on the solid layer like this and then go through and keyframe the mask, and depending on your shot, it could work really well, but it can actually be a lot more beneficial to do multiple masks, such as one for his limbs, and keyframe those individually. And since with our shot, Josh is pretty much staying still and it's the camera that's doing the moving, we can actually use a 3D camera tracker to make 3D matte layers to help do a lot of the work for us. To do this, right-click the footage of your actor, click Track Camera, and let it do its thing. Now that we have all these tracking points, we'll start with the arm by selecting a point and right-clicking. Then create a null and camera. We'll delete the previous mask on the solid and turn on 3D for the layer. Then copy and paste the null position to the solid, scale and line it up with the arm, then hide it to mask around the arm. Reset the footage to the Alpha Matte and set a keyframe for the mask. As you can see, since it is moving with the 3D camera, the mask is moving with the arm, so we just need to go through and make adjustments every now and then for changes in perspective. And now we have a floating arm. So it's a case of duplicating the solids and using the nulls to put them in the same 3D space as each limb and rotoscoping each area at times like this. It sounds like a lot of work, but thankfully the 3D camera is doing most of the work for us, and this is a good way to get accurate roto work. Rotating the layer in 3D to match perspective can also help a lot. A cool thing is you can isolate just one section since the masks are individual, so here Josh is just a floating head. Once you've completed all your roto, switch on the visibility of all the solid layers. Your footage can only use the alpha of one layer directly above, but we have masks on all of these layers, so duplicate your camera, then select it and all of the solid layers and pre-compose to create a complete matte. Now you can set the footage back to Alpha Matte and we have this. Now, depending on what you're after, this could already be your final look, but often with slow motion and time freezing, it's cool to see things in the air around the camera to amplify that 3D camera movement and that frozen idea. So we'll create a new solid and call it Particles, search for Particle Playground Effect and drop it on the new solid. Depending on your 3D camera, you might not be able to see any particles. We just had to adjust the Z position of the producer so you can copy and paste the position value from one of your nulls if needed. Then we went through and tweaked various settings until we had little particles floating in the scene. It's subtle, and it might be so subtle that YouTube compression hides it, but it's there. I mean, we can increase the size to make it more noticeable. I mean, is that noticeable enough for you, YouTube? Of course, the Matrix has those signature slow-mo camera moves, but they also have that displacement ripples from bullets, which have a very unique and stylish look. To create something similar, we're going to be using Element 3D. We'll create a new solid called Bullet Trails and add the Element 3D effect. Inside Element, we're just going to create a sphere and squish the scale in the X-axis to make a disc shape, then close Element. Once again, its origin is going to depend on your 3D camera, so under the World Transform, we'll push it in Z space to get closer to Josh. Then under Group 1, Particle Replicator, increase the particle count to a high number. This is how many duplicates of that sphere we're going to have. Under Replicator Effects, Scatter, increase the X scatter till you have a long line of spheres. Now increase the particle count if you have any big gaps. Then under Particle Look, increase the size random to 100% to try to replicate that irregular ripple shape from the Matrix. If you enable multi-objects, you can increase the size random a second time, and feel free to play around with different scales and particle settings till you are happy with the look. In the World Transform, again, we're going to change the position and rotation to an angle we like until we have this. We changed the lighting to dramatic and enabled ambient occlusion with a high intensity to create some contrast. This Element 3D layer will be used as a displacement map, so once again duplicating the 3D camera, and with both the camera and bullet trail layer selected, pre-compose and hide the visibility. Create an adjustment layer for the displacement and put it below the bullet trail pre-comp. There's a few different effects you can use for this which give different looks, such as vector blur. Choose the bullet trail as the map, and adjusting various settings can give different styles. There's also the displacement map effect, which works really well for this. Again, selecting the bullet trail layer as the map and altering the values shows how easy it gives that Matrix vibe. And Red Giant also recently released their VFX suite with some amazing effects, which we've been using basically every day, and one of which being chromatic displacement. And this adds a cool chromatic aberration to the displacement, which you can alter and can also control the blur, which affects the smoothness of the effect. For instance, this kind of looks like a time freeze water effect. For our bullet time though, we'll stick with the displacement map effect, and if you get any harsh aliasing, you can use a fast blur and set the adjustment layer to the alpha matte so it only blurs within the bullet trail. Or you can use the blur before the displacement effect, and the more you increase the blur, the more frosted it looks. You can also add a blur to the element 3D layer in the pre-comp and change the anti-aliasing setting if needed. And there's our bullet time ripple. We did the same for the other one on the other side of Josh and just had these layers below him and then threw on a LUT and we were done. And there you have it. We also made an alternate version using assets from our upcoming Infinity VFX pack coming out this Black Friday, as previously mentioned. And obviously it doesn't have to be a time freeze effect. It can work well for any type of floating, really. But that's it for me for today. Okay, bye.